it might be that our internet's not good enough or something. Okay, I think we're live.
You're live! It says you're live. I think it's because we signed in before 7.
Maybe.
And so that's why.
Okay.
Because it said at 7, now it's 7:02.
If you can see us.
Oh my gosh. Merry
us
Christmas.
know. Hey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow.
That was a nerve-wracking 2 minutes. Oh my gosh. Almost like all of 2020. You know what I mean? Never knowing if we were going to make it. It does feel super crazy.
Yeah, I think it's good.
To be here, to have made it. So we're streaming. We're doing it.
Yeah, I think it looks like we're streaming. Can you see us? Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay.
We should introduce ourselves, right?
I feel like we should. I feel like this is working. I feel like this is a really good way to start.
Yeah, we figured out how to stream. Okay, so
I'm Rachel LaForce.
I'm Alex Gettlin,
and we're married. Normally, we have been doing once a week for this whole beautiful, beautiful year, our podcast House Rules, which this is actually a transitional piece because it was the first project we started, and we're going to let it lie, and we're going to be coming to you as a morning show now. In the next 2 weeks, we're going to be launching Common Ground, which will be a morning show. So it's literally the exact same show. We're just going to do it in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also thank you to Julian for having us as part of your New Year's Eve.
Guys, this is so exciting.
Extravaganza, you know?
This is so lovely. So we're just excited to be here. But Julian was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh my gosh, so many things. So we have a new show that's coming out that we're super excited about that we wanted to share with you. So the show is called Highly Unlikely, and what it is, Alex is the host, and he brings on some of our very funny comedic friends, some of who you know from television, from Adult Swim to Netflix, to Showtime specials.
They're just like funny comics on the up.
So Alex has already smoked weed. So
that's part of the show. You'll find out in a second.
So he brings on a guest. He gets them super high.
I do. And
then he teaches them about a subject that's so bizarre it seems highly unlikely, but is 100% true. So that's the premise of the show. So throughout the season, we bring on 8 comics, and each episode focuses on a different thing. So we're talking about Nikola Tesla. We're talking about how the pyramids were built. We're talking about what it really takes to be in the Secret Service, animal mating rituals in the wild.
What it's like to have $1 billion. They're all crazy subjects, right? Things you would see on a show like Explained on Netflix or Vox or, infographic shows, things like that. So the show, as Rachel just explained, I bring on a guest, I get him high, teach him about the subject. So for this podcast, we decided to do a live kind of crossover between our weekly show and Highly Unlikely. And so I got pretty stoned before the podcast.
Shocker.
And Rachel is going to... What are you going to do, Rach?
I love that he was like, yeah, you can just intro it. And now I did. And then he was like, so what we're going to do... I'm with child, so I'm not stoned. So what we decided to do is normally Alex is sober and getting his friends stoned and telling them something. And I was like, well, what if I get you super stoned? Yeah. And then we just go over all of the insane things that happened in 2020. Yeah. So you can remember how insane this year was.
Yeah. Let's do it.
I feel like that vape is out, my friend. Nothing came out just now.
No, there's a little bit left. Come on.
All right. Okay. So.
And you guys can chime in, by the way, if you're watching on,
I think there's a chat somewhere. I want to check that. While you get the headlines ready, I'll see if I can figure out where people might be chatting because I want to. Okay, great. Julie's, we see you. Awesome. Thank you. So I see here the chat feature. Great. So let's go over our craziest stories of 2020. You know what? Before you start, because I know you've got some headlines there we're going to rattle off. I do remember, to me, this is what sums up the year is in January when I woke up to a text oh my God, Kobe's dead. And I was like, wow, all right, well, I guess we got the bad stuff out early. Can't get worse than that.
I know, but also that's the thing, this year is so insane that it was there was no way to even catch up and or honor the insanity that was this year.
I mean, this year was like a movie. It kind of felt like who did Fight Club? what is the director's name?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And it's like, what? That? Come on, dude. Really?
Yeah, at the end of it, we all like find out like we are them.
We are COVID,
right? So like, okay, so we're like, first I'm just gonna do like a real quick kind of rundown of the timeline. Okay, so January, Kobe passes away so tragically with his dear daughter, right? And then I think there were 6 other people.
Yeah.
This part's not funny. Very sad.
This is gonna be a comedy show, theoretically.
But that was the other thing. Like, I couldn't figure out all year long. Like, I mean, listen, we all need comedy. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be employed. But I also felt like the whole way through. Okay, we got it. I also felt like the whole way through, it was like, how are people even making? Like, there was no way, no pun intended, to trump what was actually happening. Well, like when Trump got COVID, we all should have just stopped. Do you know what I mean?
But there were some stories this year that when. Like, they came and we were like, ah, and then nothing happened. Like, remember murder hornets?
Okay, that was on my list.
Right? Like, what happened with that? That just proves that there's just things that come up and the media's like, oh, we got to scare them. And then I want to imagine that.
But how long would we have been on murder hornets had this year not been the way it was?
0, because no one got murdered by the murder hornets.
But they didn't murder you. The whole thing was that, like, when they stung you, people basically were saying that it felt as though their, like, blood was turning into, like, metal.
That sounds kind of cool. Like Terminator?
I don't know. That's what they said. Also, like, the weirdest way to explain a symptom, I feel.
I'm just saying, it just reminds me of, like, the sensationalism we whip up, where it really feels like...
You're not afraid of murder hornets?
I'm not now. They weren't a thing. Nothing happened.
What do you mean? Yes, they were absolutely a thing.
You didn't hear one story of anybody having a serious problem from murder.
Well, yeah, you want to know why? Because everybody stopped caring, so the media was like, you know that there's at least 4 people who passed from these murder hornets. I know it.
Yeah, but you know what? They for sure got counted as COVID deaths.
Oh, my God.
Right?
Okay. Also, do you remember when we did a live podcast from the airport?
I do. That was our 2nd episode ever.
That was this year.
Yeah.
That was in January.
That's... Okay, so what else is on your list? Let's go through this list. I sent you a whole bunch of...
Yeah, I know. I'm on it. Okay. Brexit finally happened.
Yeah. I guess if we were in England, that would have been a bigger thing.
That's still a huge thing. It affects the UN. It affects all sorts of global trade.
But again, it's so funny because, like, Brexit happened, and we don't really know what the fallout was going to be like because COVID took care... Like... Whatever the economic ramifications would have been for Brexit, it just COVID came in and it's like, no, I got this. I'll make it way worse and no one's going to care.
Okay. Then somewhere in the middle, The Mandalorian came out and everybody lost their mind about Baby Yoda, which I will say, we just watched...
That came out in 2020?
Yeah.
The first season?
This says, according to this that I'm looking at, yeah, that, well, maybe it wasn't the first... I don't know. It says The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda took over. We're going to have to get a second opinion.
2019. It was 20.
Our producer, Scott Gettlin, here in the corner.
Off camera.
There you go.
Okay, so the second season of...
Also, I've been shot down. I asked Alex, so my last name is LaForce, if we could name our baby Yoda, and he gave me a hard pass. But I'm telling you, if you had a son named Yoda LaForce Gettlin, I'm just saying.
We could name the dog Yoda.
We could also name them after your brother Scott. So we could do Scott Yoda. Scott Yoda LaForce Gettlin.
That is... by the way, I'm looking at the comments. Thank you, Megan, for smoking weed in solidarity.
Yes. Yes. Okay, I love this. All right, here we go. Another hard thing about, like, doing this is I was like, so many of these are, like, not rife with comedy. They're very sad.
Let me hear some.
Finally, like, rapist Harvey Weinstein got convicted of rape. Thank you, finally went away.
Well, okay, but that's a good, at least, like, it's, you know.
Yeah, I know, but it's hard to be like... I can't even, like, make a joke on it. Okay.
I get it.
Do you remember how much we downplayed the coronavirus weekend before?
Well, the funny thing is, and I'm really curious, you could share it in the comments if you're watching live or, just think about this for yourself, but I feel like everybody has that moment where they really thought COVID was bullshit, and then you look back on that and you're like, God, I was so clueless. Like, for us, ours is very distinct. Because the first weekend in March, my cousin Caitlin was having her wedding. We went to that. My parents were in town. And
it was on a lavender farm. It was very beautiful.
We were at this big table with all, like, my immediate family. And I remember it was either my mom, I think it was my dad, said like, "Hey, are you guys like worried about that coronavirus in LA at all?" And we both were like, "No, come on, that's ridiculous." Like we really thought it was. I was thinking it was like murder hornets, where the media built it up, and then it was going to be nothing.
But I remember,
and that was the last event we ever went to.
But I know,
like real event.
And like no shade to like Caitlin, it was beautiful, but also like, oh man, that was the last one. You know, like what do you like?
Right.
If you could have picked your last event, last big event for who knows how long. Who knows how long until we're gonna have big events? Like, what event? What event would you have wanted to go to?
You know what event we did go to that came from this whole new 2020 nonsense, and it was actually really cool. We went to
Stranger Things drive-through.
I will say, if you live in California,
it's sold out. They can't go anymore.
But so we had not gone to any drive-through events yet because I was kind of like, I don't know, they seem kind of stupid. Whatever. But we both like Stranger Things, and it looked kind of campy and fun. And we went, and it was awesome. I mean, it really...
Or we're just deprived for entertainment because we were there, and you really would have thought, like, we were like, oh my God, this is great. Like, we have not had just that much pure joy and, like, been on the same level in I don't know how long.
But the other thing is, I think
But wait, what would your last event have been? If you could have picked, like, your last big event before this, what would you have done?
Like that I can no longer do during COVID?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I guess go to like some awesome concert. I can't think of anything else.
Ugh, boo, boring.
Wait, what's yours?
I don't know. I would have wanted to go to like a movie premiere or something where like
I see.
Like experience something new for the first time.
Oh yeah,
like,
no. Of course, doing a live stand-up show. That's obviously what I would.
Yeah. Well, like, we did a lot of those prior.
I know, but you can't do them now.
I know.
I mean, you theoretically can, but
R.I.P. And also, do you know that the government coming out and saying that UFOs are real?
Oh, we remember that? I remember.
That also came out before the murder hornets.
Yeah. Wait, and then I think
that was the prelude to the murder hornets. Is the government just going, "Yep, they're real"? Because you know what it was. There's one guy in the Pentagon who's been sitting on it, and he's like, "I gotta let everybody know. I don't know I'm gonna do it." He's sweating bullets. He's freaking out. Suddenly, this comes out, and he's like, Brenda, let him know, because he can finally send it out, and there's not going to be any consequences because nobody's even going to pay attention.
Yeah.
It's so true.
By the way, Nate says it's Grogu for the record. That's Baby Yoda's name, Grogu.
Oh, thank you, Nate. I did not know that.
Shout out.
And it's also funny because I was wondering it, and I'm like, do they just call him Baby Yoda the whole time?
They just call him the child. But then Grogu, like... yeah. Wait, hold on. I want to talk about the UFO thing.
Okay.
Because it really, like... It's still weird to me how little we care. And I also was like, cool, but then I'm like, all right. But I think it would have to be that, like, we'd have to see an alien. Even if they had video of an alien creature, we wouldn't believe it. At this point...
Because also, anything that's happening in outer space, there's no way that it's more exciting than what happened on Earth this year. That's the other thing.
It's true.
Like, this year was so insane that every's like, fuck UFOs.
They could find an animal on Mars and be like, whatever, dude. Like
they did. No, they didn't find animals, but they found water on the moon, and they found signs of life on Mars. And everybody was still like, whatever. You know? I mean, and then fucking Elon Musk is like, we're going to go there and make our own rules, you know? I wish he would.
Well, yeah, you hate Elon Musk.
I can't stand him. He's so...
What do you guys think about Elon Musk? I kind of like him. Here's I'm going to defend Elon for a second. Okay.
Oh, fine.
Nobody can be that successful and that smart and be normal. You can't.
Okay, fair and very funny. That's absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, think of all those guys: Bezos, Zuckerberg.
But I don't think Bezos is that smart. I feel like we're giving this guy way too much credit. It was originally he was doing books,
I think
and then it started to take off, and I think he was a smart businessman. I'm not going to call him a genius. Bezos is not a genius. I'm not giving him that.
I'm just saying, I think it depends how you define smart. Because, like, smart and intelligence and wisdom are, like, different things. You know what I mean? Like, what?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like, there's an argument for sure that, like, I don't know, Neil deGrasse Tyson or some incredible scientist is smarter than Jeff Bezos. But by what metrics are you measuring smartness?
But it's also there's a difference between what is smart versus innovation. Okay. I don't believe that Jeff Bezos is an innovator. I think Bezos got lucky.
He innovated the way we
You're
shop.
not letting me finish, but I don't think that's how it started. It didn't start that way. I think he created one thing. He realized he was onto something. Right. People who had more money than him at the time wanted to make money off of him, helped him invest it, and rolled it and rolled it and rolled it. I think Zuckerberg is way more of an innovator than Bezos.
Sure. Zuckerberg...
I don't think if you ask Bezos, like, when he started selling books online, if they were like, hey, do you think you're going to be, like, the closest to a trillionaire 20 years from now? I don't think he could see that far in the future.
Yeah,
I also clearly have beef with Bezos, and I'm, like, genuinely working on it.
That's a fact. But I don't... I'm just saying the idea that, like, you could say the online bookstore guy is going to be the richest man on earth 20... I mean, it would have been so insane. Nobody would have believed that.
That's what I'm saying.
But so what I'm saying, though, is he did innovate, like, incrementally over time. It wasn't like when he built the bookstore, he's like, I'm going to be the richest man. But as the success came and came...
Sure, he's a good businessman. But I think being a good businessman and being an innovator are two different things. If you're talking about that there's different types of smart, I think there are innovators and I think there's businessmen.
Let's do another headline because we're getting in the weeds here. And I hope that we do see aliens in my lifetime. I mean...
Well, yeah. I mean, you might. Okay, that was Murder Hornets. This was the UFOs. Okay. There was a high school student who discovered a new planet.
Wait, really?
Apparently... Only a few days into 2020, news broke that NASA had identified a new planet. Specifically, a 17-year-old high school student discovered the planet on the third day of his internship with NASA. And it wasn't just any run-of-the-mill planet.
Hold on. Stop. This is awesome for this kid. Shout out to this kid, okay? This gives me a lot of concern for the aptitude or qualifications of the NASA staff. Like, you're supposed to be the best in the world at space, and then some kid's like, oh yeah, look at that. And they're just like, oh my God. And he's like, you know what I mean? That's for sure how it happened.
I know, but I also just imagine, like, NASA has been, like, defunct, essentially, for so many years. Like, I just imagine that there's, like, just some guy that's still there. He's like, I don't know. Couldn't find work anywhere else, so I just stayed here at NASA. And he just kind of, like, he always has, like, Werther Originals on his desk, you know? And he, like, still reads comics.
Well, you know what?
And then they were like, let's re-innovate it, you know?
Because NASA's part of the government, right? So,
Wait, what do you mean NASA's part of the government?
I'm pretty sure NASA is owned by the federal government. I don't think it's like SpaceX is private. Is this...
Let me Google that.
How is SpaceX private?
Like, Elon Musk owns SpaceX.
Oh, I was thinking Space Force, which was Trump's thing.
That's the space military. Hold on, I'm looking at, is NASA part of the U.S. government?
As you look that up, you got to say that because as soon as I go on to something else, we're going to lose it because
it's part of the U.S. government. So my point is that if, like, Sir Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic and SpaceX can do more in space than NASA, it proves that sometimes, in this case, the private sector is better than the government, which I often believe as well. And I understand that there's a lot of things to reform capitalism to make it more fair. But I think we have this misconception that, like, oh, the government's like the fair system, and it's not, dude. It's not better, and a lot of times it's worse.
Right, but it's also like the difference I think is that we have the ability to control and or navigate the government, and we don't necessarily have that ability to. Because, like, I just started watching the Reagans on Showtime, which, if you want to have your mind blown, if you don't know a lot about the Reagan era. Shocking. Absolutely shocking.
Tell me some highlights. Because
I
don't know a lot about Reagan, but I do know that people say that he really ruined the economies.
He did. So this is basically the whole thing, was that he was like a super private guy, and basically this whole first episode is about how he and Nancy both basically took this, like, fantasy and lived it so hard that it became reality.
Wait,
so,
really?
So basically, like, he didn't really come from a very great home, but kind of always, like, really had this dream of being an American hero. He couldn't play football because he was, like, really wasn't tall enough, like, not super athletic. So he was doing radio, got picked up by Warner Brothers, and actually had a pretty decent film career for a while, was married to another starlet, and that was all put together out of it was Luella Parsons. Who was basically her and Hedda Hopper were like the original like Perez Hilton, and so they but they ran what Hollywood was.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so
interesting. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Luella put together Jane and
dude, this is like a great soap opera.
It was fascinating. Puts him and so Reagan and Jane together. They have 2 kids, and then her star power starts to take off. His is falling away. She asks for a divorce. So now he's at this low point because he just wants to be this American hero. Doesn't know what to do. Now Nancy Reagan, who was formerly Nancy Davis, had like a pretty tumultuous like life growing up. So she's also like starved for wanting to like put out this persona. Right. So is he. So she finds out that he's now divorced and basically sets up like a meet and greet for like a work thing. Oh my God. And they end up hitting it off. So then he somehow stumbles into this thing with, he also was a staunch liberal. He was super, super liberal.
Reagan was.
Yes. He was super liberal. He was like a union worker. He used to run, wow. He was also the head of SAG for many years. It was the Screen Actors Guild. Okay.
That's so, wow. Okay.
So then he, signs this deal with GE. He either like had an old friend there through Hollywood or something, and so he basically becomes this corporate spokesperson for GE. So now he didn't have any money; they were basically broke. But GE buys them a brand new home and buys them a ranch. So now he's basically like, "Oh, I'm going to do anything to become the American hero again, and I'm going to have all my bills paid." So now all of a sudden he's for what? Big business, big corporations. So suddenly, of course, all these people who have a lot of money and are for big business are like, oh, we want you to run for us. So it starts with him running for governor of California. Right. Suddenly he's a Republican, and they run on this whole ticket of like basically not taxing the wealth. And then he was also, Reaganomics, whereas the whole trickle-down thing, right, which is like complete bullshit. And we obviously know now 40, 60 years after the fact, it doesn't work. So anyway, it was like this whole thing is basically like, he and Nancy created this whole fake life, essentially, and sold it in order for their own survival. It's really, at the cost of the American people.
It's really interesting. So, yeah, it's just like a great example of how, like...
You could honestly do a highly unlikely episode on the Reagans.
Yeah, I really should. You kind of just did.
Dude,
I mean...
So, that's just the first episode.
Yeah. Well, that really is, like, basically... I mean... When we do highly unlikely, there's a lot more like stopping and conversing in between. But yeah, I mean, that's like a great, I guess that would be a good episode.
He became the spokesperson. He went from being a union like organizer. And then that was the other thing. He was selling people out to Congress because he was the head of SAG. That's when the Red Scare was going on in Hollywood. So he was selling out his friends, calling them communists, so that he could make money and stay in this like hero position.
What a dick, dude.
So basically, yeah.
That's fucked up. Yeah. That part really bothers me.
But basically, like he has this, and listen, people will do a lot.
Yeah, Nate says he was
the head of SAG. Exactly right. And so he basically was selling out. And listen, I don't think that he was like this awful person. I think people that are super, from a spiritual standpoint, I think people that are super insecure and don't have a sense of their own real thread of who they are easily manipulated and will do anything to sustain.
So, entertainers.
Pretty much. Well, he started in Hollywood. I mean, that was the whole thing. Hold on. So, he started in Hollywood because he wanted to be a football hero. He couldn't do that. And then he was super upset because he couldn't be... I
mean, this kind of just sounds like a different version of Trump.
I mean, kind of. He wasn't as insane.
I know that part I get, but I'm saying sort of like the motivations and the backstory. It's not that.
Yeah, I mean, I see the parallels, but this was also very much when the world was that of like, they were coming out of World War II, which again, this was the other part, was that he was making all these propaganda movies because he couldn't actually go and fight because his eyesight was so bad. So he was like told that he couldn't go overseas and fight. So he was making all these videos with his then wife Jane about selling war bonds, which like I'm still confused about that gamut. But anyway, and he basically was like plastered over, like the television and newspapers and all of these things and radio stations of him dressed as a soldier, and the motherfucker never went to war.
That's funny.
But he was like so obsessed with being a war hero.
But he was a professional actor.
Right, so that's the whole thing that they're talking about of like, it was so hard. Like, and they have all these like political people who were like either represented his like campaigns and different stuff, and talking about that of like we never actually knew who he was, because by the time he became president, also this is insane.
Okay,
dude, this is so insane. Again, this is all from the first episode. Y'all have to watch this show, okay? Do you know how they taught him about political policy? Because he was not a politician. He had no idea. They knew he was an actor and was really good at reading cue cards, that they broke down all the legislation they wanted him to pass through as governor and wrote it down on 5x8 index cards like an actor would read from cue cards, and that's how he memorized it. They bound them together, gave it to him, and like within 48 hours he knew all of it. So by the time he became president, he'd already been on camera and knew how to be an actor for 29 years.
Right. But that just proves that, like, what we are attracted to in our leaders is not necessary. Like, clearly enough people thought that Reagan was charming enough and, like, hey, I could be the... So they just fell for it. Like, it's very smart, but I don't know how you fix that, because... There's fireworks outside. We just, let's see here. Oh, I guess someone's sharing But Reagan was a sellout, is what you're saying. Trump has been selling out since day one. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I'm just looking at the other things they posted here. Okay, I guess that's fine. What else is on the...
Okay, so anyway, you guys have to watch this because it was absolutely fascinating. But I agree with you that there is so much about, I think about that all the time because I'm always fighting for like authenticity, and I do think that people also are very drawn to authenticity, but I still think it has to be shiny. I know, and like finding the balance between that, that's why people like the Obamas, because Obama was overall, right? I was in Chicago when it happened. I know not everybody was like loved him, but
many people did not.
But I think that's why he was so captivating in the same way of the Kennedys, because there was something so authentic about him. But his family was still almost like shiny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to watch the rest of this.
I want to watch the rest of the Reagans. I do like doing highly unlikely episodes on, like the one we did on Tesla was really fun, kind of like the story of his life. Some of the other ones, it's more just kind of like, here's a fact and here's a fact. I think I like the sort of linear thing more. So we'll see. Maybe in future episodes we'll do like the Reagans and other ones that are kind of like that.
Okay, still stay in frame though, because you're getting high to where you start slouching. That's how I can always tell what happens. Okay, so did you know, this didn't happen in the States, but a court finally ruled that Subway bread isn't actually bread.
Wait, oh yeah.
Remember that?
Your stepbrother told us about this. There's so much sugar in it, it's considered cake.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Isn't that disgusting?
Subway bread is considered cake.
The Subway sandwich chain has one of the most distinctive fast food smells around, since they bake their own bread in-house. But, as it turns out, the rolls in their ovens aren't technically considered bread, at least according to Ireland's Supreme Court.
I don't think the meat is technically considered meat either. It's like so processed.
Yeah, so it contains 10% sugar, which is too high to be legally bread.
God, but
isn't that nuts?
I wonder why there's so much sugar in their bread. That makes me feel like their bread is really bad.
Yeah, it's awful for you. You shouldn't walk in and it smells that pungent.
Yeah.
And like consistent.
It's true.
That's the other thing that's frightening to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I still eat there all too often. It's disgusting.
Well, especially you and I did a cross-country road trip and a honeymoon road trip. We were on the road a lot this year. Ironically, no live comedy, basically, but on the road, nonstop. Yeah. We ate a lot of Subway because when you're on the road, it's like Subway, McDonald's, Wendy's, and Chick-fil-A. That's base, and Taco Bell.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, what else are we going to eat?
Yeah. Here's another fun one for you. Do you remember when we went to Chick-fil-A? And don't at me. I know they don't support a lot of my friends. So we go to Chick-fil-A because again, you got to diversify when you've been on the road for as long as we had been.
Dude, I love Chick-fil-A. I'll put politics aside. I don't care.
And so we go, and I was like, didn't want to get like all fried food essentially. So I was like, can I have one kid's nugget? And she goes, one? And I said, yes, please. And then we pull through, and I open the box, and that motherfucker gave me one chicken nugget.
A single nugget.
I opened it, and I'm like, wait a minute. this can't. Also, keep in mind, I'm pregnant. I'm tired. We're on the road. Like, the line was so long. I was so excited to eat 4 chicken nuggets.
Yeah, she was really fun to be around that day.
Hilarious. And I open it, and there's 1 nug, y'all. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm like, at first, I'm so confused that I like don't really know what's happening. And then I checked the receipt, and lo and behold, she charged me 50 cents
no,
for
49 cents.
49 cents?
Yeah.
For 1 chicken nugget. So apparently you can do that. I didn't know.
Yeah, you were really like, you had like visceral anger.
Yeah. I get really hangry. Sorry.
We ate a lot of fast food this year, but it was just because you were on the road, man. Like, it's so hard to eat remotely healthy when you're, because remember we got like just like chicken, and we went to Chili's, and we got their like healthy meal, and it was just like plain chicken.
It was sponge on a plate.
It was bad, dude.
I've had tofu with more consistency.
Yeah.
It was just frightening. And I'll tell you what, yeah, I mean, and it was also Chili's in Roswell, New Mexico.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, if you want to be bummed out, you got to go to a Chili's in Roswell, New Mexico.
Dude, Roswell, New Mexico. So do you remember the story behind that, what we learned?
Yes, of course I know the story of Roswell, New Mexico.
But most people don't.
Okay, we'll share with our friends.
So if you guys don't know, you might have heard like, oh, Roswell, New Mexico. That's like aliens or something, right? Isn't that where, like the alien crashed? So, Area 51, which is in Nevada, which is not part of the alien crash that people talk about. What happened was there was some kind of like Navy weather balloon, and it like a mysterious craft like crashed, and there was like a story in the paper about it, and then like 20 years later, some guy thought it would be fun to like bring it back up, like what if it was aliens? And then everybody just ran with it, and that was it. It's like a fake town, like.
But it was also. From what I thought, that it was going to be like more chintzy, obviously, and they'd have like alien stuff or whatever. And it was like such a sad homage to that. Like,
it's their only economy.
I know, but it wasn't even. I thought that meant like there was going to be like a cute little downtown where you could get like,
right.
alien magnets or something, or like, I went to Roswell and all I got was this alien magnet.
It was just gas stations and motels.
There was just like when you entered like a weird alien like cutout of plywood.
Yeah.
And then they
you know what it reminded me of? You ever like do like one of those haunted mazes inside the mall?
No, I didn't know that was a thing.
So there's like the cool ones that are outside, right? Like in the wilderness, yeah. And then sometimes like in the mall, they would like take one of those like a JCPenney's. And they would like empty it out.
I feel like going to a JCPenney just in and of itself feels like, going through a haunted maze. Could you imagine just an old...
Somebody wrote, Oh, Julian, thank you. She said, I love you guys.
We love you too.
I know. This is so fun.
But wait, you never did like a haunted maze in the mall? It's like the shitty version. It's like the...
Yeah, I understand.
That's what Roswell is.
No, I'm agreeing with you. That thought of that is terrifying. No, I don't ever... The only things that I used to go to at the mall as a kid, this is hilarious... this was when Disney was first kind of doing like a resurgence with their animation, and so they would come. I remember it was the Pocahontas one, and they set up this whole interactive station in our mall of like all the different Pocahontas characters, and there were like touch screens and all sorts of stuff you could do, and like I thought it was just the most amazing.
You know what's just funny? Like when you like to look back at like how you evolve as a human, hopefully, Like, remember there was a time in your life when hanging out with your friends at the mall and just walking around with a group of other peers of yours was fucking awesome. Like, that was, like, so cool. Now, if, like, a group of friends called me to, like, go shopping with, they're like, no, why? That sounds awful.
That's so, just the thought to
Absolutely
me,
not.
If someone was like, hey, do you want to go to the mall with me? And I'd be like, where? I'm going to go to the mall. Do you need anything? No, I'm just going to walk around for a few hours.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I'd be like, what? But also, we don't have malls.
Yeah. Remember, like, there were such, like, certain businesses.
But I was thinking about that because now I'm, like, trying to shop online for maternity clothes. And I'm like, okay, so not only do I, like, you already don't know how clothes fit you. Now I have to just, like, guess my maternity size. Okay? And, like, these clothes are not cheap. And I'm like, I miss stores.
Yeah.
I understand some women are like, I love shop, or men, or persons that are like, I love shopping online. Oh my God, I'm addicted. I don't. I want to touch the things. I want to know. I want to try it on.
I actually don't like that very much.
But you're not a big shopper.
No, I don't. I buy clothes like once a year. My clothes are fine.
Okay, well, let's keep on.
Okay.
Let's keep on moving here. Okay.
I want to watch this Reagan show now.
I'm telling you, we can watch it tonight. Did you know this? This missed me completely, and I'll tell you what, I'm kind of sad about it. Did you know that Chris Evans leaked his own nude in order to get people to vote?
Yeah, I didn't.
How much did Chris Evans want people to look at his dick?
I didn't know that was the reason. I thought he just accidentally posted. The story I heard was, at first it came out that he accidentally posted his nude on his story, and it was like, oh, I didn't do it. It was an accident. It was my whatever. And then he tried to spin it as that's the reason.
Oh, that's probably okay, because I didn't know that at all. It was just like Chris Evans docked his own dick, and I was like,
there's been a few celebrities who've had their dudes. I know Chris Brown and Big Sean. They had their photos leaked, but they also have enormous dogs. So it's like, oh, it
But why are we so obsessed? This is maybe a dumb question, but why are we so? There's something so voyeuristic about all of us of wanting to know what other people look like naked.
Sure, I guess because we're not supposed to. I don't know.
Is that it?
I guess.
Remember when all of those, there was some cloud or something that got broken into, and it was all those young starlets.
Blake Lively.
Yeah, and everybody was freaking out about, and I'm like, I mean, even if they're smoking hot, you know what I mean? I'm like, great.
Well,
it's
I don't know.
You don't have Pornhub on your internet? I don't know. I just
no, but it's because you kind of know who they are. And you're not supposed to see them like that. It's there's some kind of thing where it's oh, it's naughty. Dude, it's that's why porn is so ridiculous. There's no porn category anymore that's married couple has healthy sex life. That does not exist. Now it's all stepmom walks in on stepson masturbating with teacher, and that's that would never ever happen. And it's first of all, it's fucking weird that you have to have stepmom inside, and then it's what a preposterous scenario.
I don't know. I'm still just more mad that they still think that the acting part is necessary. For me, as somebody who takes my craft seriously, I'm offended. You know what I mean? I didn't come here for the narrative.
Well, but there's a whole genre where it's just they don't even do the narrative. They just literally all right.
I understand, but occasionally if you watch a video,
there's
you're
some
how far into this thing?
There are some companies that the production value is dude, this is Netflix quality.
Right, but there's some of those companies now, and then there's ones that are geared towards women and LGBT. There's all of the right because now there's sex workers and people, the rights and all those things, which I'm totally here for.
I'm impressed at there's some stuff I've seen that's dude, this is I'm impressed the angles and dude, you're on a boat.
The angles.
Okay, so you guys rented a yacht to shoot this, right? You rented a boat, and then you've got on the boat and then far away shots. You've got the above, so you've got multiple cameras.
I just gotta say, I just think about how tired I am when I come home from a day of work. Especially being on set where you have to redo the lights, you have to redo the shot. Now imagining if you were giving somebody just aggressive head and they're sorry, we gotta do it again. We didn't see you. The light didn't see you. You're okay, and then you're just gotta go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a rough business, man. I know it seems cool from the outside, but I think a lot of dudes think it is from the outside. But when you really think about it, it's not. I don't think it's a life that would make you happy.
Well, I think it just depends on who you are.
Sure, totally.
Yeah. I feel I don't like enough people to even, I'd be
But it's so transactional. Sex is it can't be enjoyable after a time. It has to just be yeah, I'm just doing a thing.
I know, but that's the thing, because some people are well, they just really like sex, and that's so it's sex positivity, and I'm yeah, okay, great, I get that, but also yeah, you're not always getting to choose these people. I don't know. I also feel I think it would be cool to work at Cold Stone. I think it'd be really cool to be able to eat ice cream whenever I want. I think that'd be really fun. But at the same time, I'm then it would ruin ice cream.
Yeah.
If you could just have ice cream whenever you wanted. All sorts of flavors. You could mix things in. People would sing while you're there.
Yeah.
Just saying. Okay.
I haven't been to Cold Stone in a long time. Next story.
Okay. I didn't know about... So remember all the sex trafficking theories that were coming out
QAnon.
of like the far, far right?
Yeah.
I didn't know this. If people, honest to God, believed the conspiracy theory that Wayfair was sex trafficking kids through cabinets.
Yeah, I don't... I what happened... There was like...
I follow an anti-vaxxer child trafficker friend of mine who also sells oils on Instagram. And... she's got 4 adorable kids and homeschools them and really cute home decor. So I can't not follow her. But I'm always just so baffled.
The thing about the Wayfair thing, from what I remember, is that like people were posting screenshots of the furniture with like a very unique name for the furniture. And then there was like some insane price. Like it'd be like a cabinet and it was like $12,000. It was called like Desire. And then there was like some like picture of a kid named Desire and like a kid that had been missing.
Here's the thing that doesn't make sense to me. People don't believe in Photoshop. I mean, that's just the thing. Like there were so many times that people would either screenshot things.
Does it say like how it's like some hacker. You know what it probably was? Some fucking disgruntled employee who's really good at posting shit on the internet. Or maybe it was like Wayfair's competitor.
I don't know. I think it was insane. Okay, I'm going to move on. So here's a list of famous people that got COVID that you totally forgot about, okay? Lena Dunham.
Who cares?
Okay.
Of course, dude, of course she got it. Of course she got it.
Why? What do you say? First of all, who knew that you had such beef with Lena Dunham?
She's just so annoying, man.
Why do you think that?
She's so annoying. I don't know, and it's probably not fair, but everything... She's just not funny and pompous and just like so self-entitled and... thinks she's like got such brilliant ideas that aren't clever and just talks down to people, and it's like, ugh. She just reminds me of a lot of people I know that are like that are like very mediocre comics, but think that they get to like tell other people how to live their life because they went to a liberal arts school and they like know shit.
Okay, that's funny.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Sure. I'm gonna move on. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
I forgot that.
Your homie. Prince Charles. Andy Cohen.
Okay.
Pink.
Yeah.
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
Antonio Banderas.
I remember Cranston said he felt like totally fine.
Alyssa Milano.
Yep.
Kevin Hart.
Bummer.
Brian Cox. From Succession.
Yeah, no. He's old.
Yeah. Robert Pattinson.
Okay.
I would love to have lunch with Robert.
You know he's the new Batman?
Really?
Yeah, you haven't seen that trailer?
No. Oh, that's the one like only half of it's been made?
A quarter of it.
Yeah.
And that you did see it, because remember you were like, wow, that just shows what an editor can do to make a trailer look great.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of cool shots in there.
Yeah. Tiffany Haddish. Jim Parsons.
Okay.
Kanye West.
Right.
Rand Paul. Chris Cuomo.
Yeah, Julian, I'm not a Lena Dunham fan, I'm sorry. But, if you like her, that's fine. Okay.
I know. He's highly triggered by...
I don't know.
Many...
It's not fair. She just reminds me of people that I know that annoy me.
Also, Harvey Weinstein also got COVID.
I remember hearing about that. I think it's the same way a lot of people feel about Rogan who don't like him. They're just like, oh, he's just this and that and this and that. I'm like,
Yeah. Well,
I love Rogan.
I think the Lena Dunham thing is she's like the Karen of feminists. So she's not, because she's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she's not unaware. Like
Right.
I don't think it's like these other women that are just like running their mouths, like where you're just like, I wouldn't say that. But she is very well educated, comes from a very good family. I do think that she's very bright. I do think she's very intelligent. But she's also a little tone deaf because of those things.
Right.
So she is, Remember Quibi?
Yeah, I do. I was really into it for like a month.
You were like so in love. I think you binged like all like leading up to it. You're like, dude, this is like gonna change things. You're gonna change.
I thought that for about a week, and then I got over it because.
But you, this is what I learned about you, and it took me a very long time to figure this out.
Yeah.
When you latch on to something, it's just it's your thing, and then
Get out of here.
But 9 times out of 10, that a weekend, and then it's like, never mind,
Okay.
But you do, but like
at least hold on. in my defense, at least I give it, a real Scouts try. You know what I'm saying? I really go for it and make sure that I have my mind made up.
That's true. You do.
I mean,
but I remember like when we first started dating or when we first started getting serious, like I would want to invest in the things that you're like investing emotional energy into. And
like
then
what?
I don't know, but I just remembered that it was like one after another. It was just like a dog with a bone, and then like no, thank you, and then he just would gracefully move on.
It's okay.
But that was you about Quibi. You watched every show. How many shows on Quibi did you watch?
Too many.
You watched more. They had like a 3% viewing. You were 1% of that 3%.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it, okay, so there were like 2 or 3 shows there that were actually very well done. They were cool. The one, come on, the like kind of thriller, like chase with Christoph Waltz and Chris Hemsworth. I think that was really good. Like that was, and it was just cool. The thing where you could like flip it, and it would, the chapters. And there was another show that had like Queen Latifah and Mark Duplass. It was like a murder mystery show. Like that was cool. But then there were like these like really whack ass corny reality shows. There was that. Remember, there was one I made you watch a little part of it, and it was like people would, a chef would go into like a tube, like a cylinder, and he would have on like goggles, and then they would take a meal and blast it out of a cannon. So like like let's say they had like a lasagna and like green beans and other things, they would put it in on a plate and then launch it into the tube against the wall. And the chef had to like guess what it was by like tasting it.
No, okay, now I remember because
it was so stupid.
Because it felt like if we were to like pitch you fake reality shows, those were the ones that they actually went with.
Especially because one of the judges,
what was it just called, like Splatter or something?
Yeah. And one of the judges was your best friend Dan Levy, and you were like,
really?
Yeah.
That I don't remember.
And Dan was just like, Dan, wait, hold on. He was watching like, what? What is this?
I love him so much.
Yeah, man.
They launched and then shut down only 6 months later, and they basically lost $1.7 billion. That's a lot. That's a lot to
Schitt's Creek is really an underrated. I guess now it's getting its due, but the more I watch bits of it with you, I'm like, man, this is like a really well done show.
It's the best. I love
because
it.
It's meant to live in a very tiny world. That's like it took me a second to appreciate that because I'm used to shows with huge worlds, right? So much of what we watch has this infinite world, but Schitt's Creek, it's perfectly like, Yeah,
it's a character-based show. The enjoyment is from watching these characters exist in their environment.
But so many of the big comedies we've had lately, like Parks and Rec, The Office. What are the other ones we've had recently? I don't know, but.
Well, I wouldn't call The Office recently.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't know. I'm having trouble thinking of a good comedy recently that like really got popular.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna move on. All right. Also, this article is calling Elon Musk a space Karen, which is the funniest thing in the world to me. Yeah, Elon Musk pulled more shit in 2020 than anyone can be bothered to remember. So let's slowly run through a recap of some of Musk's greatest 2020 hits. Naming his and Grimes' daughter after a plane or something.
Yeah.
Predicting that COVID-19 panic was completely overblown and saying that there would be 0 cases by April and raging against the stay-at-home orders. Vowing to sell all of his possessions. Yeah, and now he's trying to get everybody to go to... What else? Yeah. He blew up his own rocket launch. Being mad at people for having pronouns in their bios. Yeah. It just...
Yeah, I mean... I get it.
But yeah, I mean, listen, there was Tiger King. There was Carol Baskin. There was...
The thing about that show, I know we talked about this before, it's like, it had to come out at the beginning of the lockdowns, because we were still like, this is crazy, look at these people. And then this year just got shittier and shittier. Because the thing is, we got to remember, we went from lockdowns to economic fallout to George Floyd to more protests.
I would say...
Like, it was like a domino effect.
I would say May to July... was the hardest. Because that's when we were seeing race riots. We were seeing like this huge insurgence of everything that needed to happen. I mean, all of that needed to be like shooken up in order for people to pay attention. So, I mean, ultimately, I believe that it is for our greater good as a collective. But it was incredibly painful to witness and participate in. And I think that, you know, what was also so interesting about that whole time too was like all of the like micro trends that were happening, right? So it was like, that was when it was first like, we're doing a drive-by, you know, insert event here. So like drive-by baby shower, like those ideas, or like think about how tired Zoom jokes got by the end.
Dude.
You know, then there was the phase where everybody just like baked bread, you know?
Yeah. Well, we did that. We were like doing just like, we're juicing, we're at home and we're like.
I know, but that's what I mean. Like everybody.
It really shows that we will just adapt. Like whatever you do to us, it's like humans. We'll just, we'll complain. We'll hate it, but we'll also just eventually be like, all right, this is what it is now.
But that was the thing.
We are so malleable.
Okay, so, you know me, I gotta always leave it on a...
Fireworks, sorry.
Oh my, are you okay?
It was an explosion.
It's debatable, but...
I mean...
Well, what do you... Here's my other thing, and I can't even get into it. I didn't want to bring up Trump and all the, like, absolutely ridiculous things he said all throughout the year, because I just can't. I mean,
what he's going to do next?
When I was rewatching, like, all of the coverage of when he had COVID, before he had it, telling everybody it's not a big deal, like, literally running our country, seeing the devastation, and being like, nope, it's not real. It's not a big thing.
Listen,
he took on TikTok.
I'm glad that our president didn't die, because that would be terrible, you know. So I'm glad he was healthy. But if I could look at this purely from like a narrative standpoint, like what would have been like, this is incredible. This is the most insane thing. It would have been if the year ended with Trump dying of COVID before the election, and that, like, you know, chaos that would ensue, right? And then the super hardcore Trump people, like what they would convince themselves of, that like the government did it. They would never accept that he died of COVID. There would be lifelong people who would tell stories and documentaries. And
I know, but that's also at the fault of Trump. That's why, like, thank you, Nate. But that's also why I've had so much anger towards Trump, and we've argued about it.
No, I know. I'm
almost
saying,
on every episode of our podcast this year.
I'm just saying purely from a narrative standpoint.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, that would have been like.
I know, but also that was like when Trump got COVID, and people were like, "Can you believe this is happening?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I can." Like, what comes in Act 3?
I will say
the villain gets COVID. Like, of course.
I will say, we did argue a bit. I was never a fan of Trump.
I will also say, I know that he would have had, like, the best healthcare, and they've been pumping him full of drugs, and, like, you know, for like, this entire time. But I will still say, I'm shocked that he recovered that quickly. Like, I was almost like, I don't even actually know if this motherfucker has COVID, because I was shocked.
But think about all the people we know that have gotten it, and many of them were just like, I feel a little under the weather.
I know, but he looks the way I feel after I eat McDonald's. Do you know what I mean? Just like bloated, kind of tired, disoriented slightly.
Do you know the names of the two drugs he was on? They're like these. Like, one's called, like, I think Regenitron, and the other one, or Regeneron or something, and the other one's called like Remdesivir. Like these, like, this is like the most scientific Regenitron. That sounds like it's out of like X-Men or some shit.
Oh my god, yeah, it's just
But I never. I was going to explain. I never like. I like Trump. I just wasn't upset about the same things you were. I was like, whatever.
Right, which is what made me more frustrated, because from his, like, you know, voting or the way he's run his presidency or whatever, that's a different debate. But the fact that I was like, his vitriol and what he's saying is driving so much of what we're seeing culturally, and to not accept that and to not see how damaging that is a massive, massive problem. But I still stand by that motherfucker didn't actually think he was going to be president.
I don't think that's true, because he fought so hard to keep it. You know what I mean? If he really didn't want to...
Well, yeah, he's a megalomaniac. He wasn't going to be like, well, I tried. Anyway, we got 4 minutes. Let's wrap up 2020.
Yeah, let's not talk about Trump. I will say this, though. I'm glad that we're past it. Like, it is nice to just be like, what if I really talk? Like, now we can stop talking about it, you know? We can just go on to the next thing. But anyway, final thoughts. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you guys. So, by the way, if you, I keep looking at the computer, you look at the camera. Mm-hmm. If you guys enjoyed this, you want to follow us, okay? It's just at Alex Gettlin on all social media.
At Rachel LaForce on all social media. Again, you can follow our podcast at House Rules Pod on Instagram. We're actually going to be changing it over to Common Ground, but you can go ahead and follow that, and then it'll give you to all the proper channels. You can also to check out Highly Unlikely Show, which is debuting in the end of January. We're so excited. Again, Highly Unlikely is a digital show and podcast featuring Alex, where he brings on some of our favorite comedians, gets them high, and then teaches them about a subject that is so bizarre, it seems highly unlikely, but is 100% true. So we're going to have 8 episodes. We have comedians like Kate Quigley and Slink Johnson from Black Jesus on Adult Swim. We've got a whole lineup of very, very funny people, so we're excited for you to check that out. So you can go to Highly Unlikely Show. Right?
Yep.
Okay. Highly Unlikely Show. And
Instagram,
also, we want to give a shout out to our partners at WikiLeaf as well. So they're helping us produce this. Do you think we can give out our Amuse code?
Yeah. If you live in California and you like cannabis, you can go on amuse.com. That's AMUSE.com. It's like Uber, but for cannabis. It's great. And if you use promo code WIKI20, WIKI20, you get 20% off your first order.
Woohoo! So yeah, we're super excited because we've got Highly Unlikely coming out this year. We have Common Ground coming out this year. And I would love to say that we would be back to touring our stand-up this year, but I won't speak so soon. So we'll see.
Soon. Whenever it is.
Yeah.
Whenever life resumes. But yeah, this is awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us, and so many blessings to all of you in 2021. Are you cutting me off now?
Yeah. Are you good?
Okay. All right. That's it.
Bye, guys.
Bye.